Good evening, and this is Youth Vision 2020. My name is Tony Walker, and our project involves a video aimed at giving our young a voice in the community. And to my right, I have Jean Barstow.
Thanks, Tony. Our project was decided upon through a process of group consensus. And not too long ago, our entire leadership class 10 was posed the interesting question during one of our outings about whether it's better to be a leader or a follower. Now, in our heart of hearts, we know that any dichotomy of that kind would have to be false. And we saw that in the process of our small group, because we cooperated together, we voiced our opinions, we manipulated, we engaged in consensus as well, and we were both leaders and followers at the same time. When we decided on the specific project that you'll see tonight, we also had the idea of making leadership inclusive, bringing more voices to the public. We chose this project because we didn't want to tell young people what our ideas were. We wanted to hear from them. This is Jan O'Sullivan, who will talk about how we got the project underway.
Thank you, Jean. Okay, I'm Jan, and this was a really interesting process. The process, I'm sure you have questions about, perhaps. But the whole process, we decided that by Youth Vision 2020, we wanted to find out some information from the city schools, youth. And we decided that we would go to 5 high schools here in Napa. So we figured the whole valley would be a humongous process, and we wanted to simplify this process. But we had a great video in this process. The process was, first of all, and Pam will talk about the questions in general, what we asked. The process was identifying the schools, identifying the leaders within the schools, contacting the schools and the leaders, and then allowing the leaders to choose the volunteer participants. They were all volunteer. So what we did was Tony and PG&E helped support this project. Tony did this wonderful Youth Vision 2020 pamphlet. And inside this pamphlet is an introduction letter. It is also a list of the questionnaires and a consent form, because we figured that with a consent form we would be able to play this video perhaps anywhere, including tonight. It was interesting enough that there was one high school, just in Siena, they figured they didn't need it, being a private high school. But we wanted to make sure we were within regulations with the Unified School District, so we got consent forms from each of the schools. In that process, once we identified our leaders, we delivered, each of us had assigned high school, and Rick was our video man, to my right. And we delivered these pamphlets so the students knew what the questions were in advance. And then upon the process, we needed to make an appointment of the videotaping date to schedule with Rick's schedule. The process was very interesting. I learned a lot about youths, and they have a lot of interesting things to say. And I actually, honestly, I only saw the video last night. And the whole process was letting go and letting my fellow colleagues, take control too, and that was a really great experience. Rick did a wonderful job. And now to my right, and she'll introduce herself.
Hello, I'm Pam Manchester, and I'd like to share with you the questions that we selected for Youth Vision 2020. First, I'd like to tell you how we went about deciding what questions were important. We decided as a group that everything needed to be a consensus. We didn't want 3 out of 5 of us agreeing on a question. So we decided that we wanted 10 questions that represented the youth. We tried to think like they would think. and what was important to them. So we decided to come up with 10 questions. When we came up with the 10 questions, we gave them to the different high schools, and we let the students look at the questions beforehand. This way they had a chance to review it. They didn't feel any pressure that they had to answer every single question. Before we videotaped them, we went through each and every question and said who has any input or feedback on these questions. Once we had that all set and organized, we asked the 10 questions, Rick videotaped it, and we found as we went through the questions, different students wanted to just jump in and answer because they thought of other ideas and other suggestions. Some of the questions, I won't go through all 10 of the questions, but the main ones were, what are the most important resources for youth in Napa today? We're concerned with education, recreation, student activities that are on campus and off campus. Also, what resources are lacking and need to be developed in the Napa County. Also, we wanted to see what advantages or disadvantages existed in living in Napa. We ended it with what any suggestions they had, any concerns. We wanted to hear their input on what we should be doing in the future, or what they can be doing in the future to help the Napa community. Now I'll give you our video recorder, which is Rick Schwartz. He videotaped every school, so he knows better than the rest of us all the inputs and all the ideas. And here he is.
Thanks. Well, as I said, I produced the video, so I did have the pleasure of going to all 5 of the high schools and hearing all of the student participants. And their responses to the questions were very interesting and very enlightening. But rather than sit here and talk about it, the entire video is 31 minutes long. We won't have time to show you the entire video, but we will show you as much as we can within the time allotted. So why don't you go ahead and roll the tape, and I'll get the lights.
Hi, I'm Tony Welker, and I'm with Leadership Napa Valley Class 10. I want to welcome you to Youth Vision 2020. We're on location here at Vintage High School in Napa, California, and with me as guest participants in the senior class, seated to my right, are Eric Fiebig, Ashley Wagner, Jeannie Bergen, Matt Workman, and Marissa Bushby. As you know, our video project for Class 10 is designed to give young people a voice in the community and to let our leaders know about some of the views and concerns that our young people have.
Hi, I'm Pam Manchester. I'm from Leadership Napa Valley, group number 10, representing Leadership Youth Vision 2020 project. I'm here at Justin Siena High School in Napa, California, and I have 5 senior guest participants. The first participant is Deidre Fine. I have Donna Gudlin, Allison Stelzner, Ian McMillan, and Emily Mix. They're here to talk about youth vision, what's happening in Napa, how they see the advantages in Napa for the youth, disadvantages, how we can improve it. It's a chance for them to voice their opinions and concerns.
Hi, my name is Jan O'Sullivan. I'm with Leadership of Napa Valley Class 10. And our project is Youth the Project, and it's Youth Vision 2020. And with me today, I'm at Thomas Scale High School, and I have 5 students. I have Lisette Cruz, Suman Roop, Rebecca Shellhorn, Jessica Ferris, it's Jessica Ferris, and Nathan Begonia. And we have some questions that we would like to ask the youth of Thomas Scale High School.
Hi, I'm Jean Barstow. I'm a member of the Leadership Napa Valley Class 10. I'm part of the small group that's called Youth. And for our project this year, what we have done is put together a videotape talking with young people at Napa City high schools about their vision of Napa's future. We're here this morning at New Technology High School with a group of students who have some really interesting and fresh ideas to tell us about what Napa looks like to them today and what it will look like in the future. We're getting their input, and this is a message from youth for our Youth Vision 2020 project. I'm first going to introduce the students who are with us this morning, starting with Leah Starr, then Andrea Reibel, then Luis Batista, Joe Leja, and Sophie Metz.
Hi, I'm Tony Welker, and today we are on location at Napa High School in Napa, and with me we have 5 senior guest participants, and I'd like to introduce them, please. They are Josh Malden, Jennifer Johnson, we have Nora Solis, we have Kelly Stevens, and we have Will Sloda. And these guest participants are going to be giving us a little brief overview of some of the voices that they'd like to convey to our leaders and our business leaders in Napa. So I'd like to start with some of the questions that we have and get this underway. Okay, question number 1. What are the most important resources for the youth in Napa today?
Well, I think by far the most important resources that any of the youth in Napa are going to have for them is education, because Napa has great schools.
I think Napa is a really beautiful place to live. There's a lot of sports for kids to do, and there's hiking trails if you want to find them. And I also think that at some of the schools there's a lot of clubs that you can get involved with if you're interested.
I think that the most important resources for youth in Napa today is Clinic Olay for education and student activities.
I think that the most important resources in Napa are the schools and the education. We have lots of chances to graduate and to learn all sorts of different types of education. For example, the Temescal program I think is great.
The Teen Center has a lot of opportunities to do things too.
Is our school, the New Technology High School. Education is an important resource here. We have at Napa 5 good high schools.
I feel that the most important resource in Napa today is sports.
Yeah, our group also is concerned about, are there adequate resources here in Napa for teenagers? If so, what are they? Or if not, what is lacking?
One resource that I feel is lacking is sports in elementary schools.
I think another thing that would be really fun would be maybe a community service center where kids who are interested in community service could actually have a place where they could go and find out and connect with other services, because that can be a lot of fun too.
I think we need some dance clubs. We have a dead downtown. Why don't we bring our downtown alive with some, more youth-oriented, targeted at the 18 and older. We also should maybe have concerts. We have a lot of beautiful parks here in Napa. Open those up to, have large gatherings of people. We need also more affordable alternatives. We could use the pools we have right now and have midnight team swims, all-night camping maybe at parks, just activities that are fun that can accommodate large amounts of kids. That are just a little more out of the ordinary instead of just sports. Not everyone's totally sport-oriented. Some people just like a place to go sit down. And I think that Napa's definitely lacking that.
Because there's not all that much to do within the community. It would be nice to have more activities for us as juniors and seniors, because we don't want to go hang out where 8th graders hang out.
There should be a community swimming pool and basketball, and everything costs a lot of money, and some kids have jobs, but not enough to, do all the things they choose to do. I just think they should limit down costs of things. There are lots of limitations for people. You have to have a certain amount of money, and you have to be in high school for the teen center, and you have to have a student body card, and
For example, this high school doesn't have student body cards, and we are not able to go to the teen center unless you have your old body card. And I don't think that that's really fair.
Resources that I think that should be developed and that are lacking basically are advertisement amongst programs, because sometimes events are taking place and no one really finds out about them until a week or 2 weeks later.
I regret that they tore down like the roller skating rink, because I thought that was great, and it would be nice to see some other things like that in Napa. Maybe if they used the fairgrounds more and brought in stuff.
Personally, as a senior here, I feel that a lot of the schools or activities outside of school, there's not a lot for students to do outside of school if they're not involved in sports or things, and I think that more clubs should be presented and a wider range.
I think that the Napa Valley is lacking a few resources, but I think that lately we've been starting to head in the right direction. For instance, we have a new teen center, and I think that's the right idea, but unfortunately a lot of the students and the youth in Napa don't use it. I think that there are starting to be a lot more things, and people are realizing that we need clubs and we need places to go and hang out, but I don't think that the students have caught on to that yet, and I think that it won't be a problem anymore as soon as people start realizing that these places are fun and it's a cool thing to do on the weekends. So I think that we're heading in the right direction, but right now it hasn't really caught on yet.
What advantages do young people have living in Napa?
It's a safe community. It's like you can walk around at nighttime, late at night, without worrying about getting jumped.
Napa is a very small community, and most everybody knows everybody else.
Napa's such a beautiful place, and you just have to be creative because we have a lot of interesting things to do. You know, you could go up Valley, you can, go to the movies, you can lay out in the sun. There's a lot of museums around here. You just have to be creative and just get out there and don't be negative about all the stuff there isn't to do, because there is some things.
I think that we have a really neat wine culture, which is something that's rare to most communities.
A major advantage is the beauty of this place, and of course the safety. The crime is not a major factor here.
Some of the disadvantages here at Napa is that the people who live here and the students who come to the schools and everything, they really don't become aware of what really goes on outside of Napa. I used to live in Los Angeles, and when I moved from there to here, it was a major difference.
How will increasing growth affect the community in Napa and young people?
I think increasing growth, increasing population in Napa would kind of like bring some downsides to it. But I think that the population that Napa has right now is like just right. And if more people were to come, then I think it would kind of break that small community kind of atmosphere.
If it does grow higher, I believe there's going to be a lot more damage done to the Napa Valley community.
I think there's a certain amount of pride that goes along with living in the Napa Valley, and we all like that, whether people think we're snotty when we go out of the Napa Valley.
As adults, we often view some of the major concerns that take place in a community, and we often place some of those concerns on the youth of today. But what I'd like to do right now is just to ask the youth what they feel some of the major concerns and problems and opportunities are that face them. Examples such as the educational system or work opportunities or social issues or even the local environment.
I think one of the major concerns that I have in the Napa Valley is I'm starting to see a lot more gang violence and gang activity.
I feel that alcohol and drug abuse has become a major issue, a major problem at the high school level, even the middle school level for the teens here in Napa.
I think one of my major concerns today for Napa is the environment.
One major concern that I have is there's not much for kids to do that are 18 and older.
I think a problem facing Napa youth seems to be the negative press we seem to get from community leaders and things like that. I think that I know right now I feel like the police seem to be against me. I feel as though a lot of people look down on the youth. They look at us as a problem.
Some of the major concerns in Napa County are work opportunities, peer pressure, and trying in groups and stuff.
One of my major concerns is job opportunities. We have no factories or anything that people can go to work at a young age and work there for 25, 30 years and retire. I don't think that there are that many job opportunities. There's only McDonald's, Taco Bell, those types of places, and nothing that anybody can actually make a major career out of and retire off of.
In Napa, I'd have to say some of the major concerns and problems maybe are that there's not much for the teenagers to do, so they go to partying and drinking a lot and drugs and stuff.
One of the major concerns here at Napa, I think, would be pressure amongst peers. If, oh, come on, let's go to a party and get drunk, and that's pressure right there. And if you don't want to do it, then they'll call you a sissy or, oh, you're a geek, don't hang out with us. And I think if one student doesn't want to do a certain thing or action, I think his idea should be respected.
I think one of the problems facing the youth in Napa today is teen pregnancies. I know a lot of people that have gotten pregnant, and it would be, and dropping out of school and getting pregnant, or just dropping out of school, period, to work.
There are racial problems in Napa, and there is an attitude of segregation, especially between Hispanic students and white students, especially in schools and like in Napa and Vintage. And those things can only be resolved over time. I mean, there's nothing you can do to say, have a big fix-all and make everyone get along and be happy all of a sudden. Let's sing Kumbaya.
Okay. Also would like to hear, once you graduate from high school and if you go away to college, would you return here to Napa? Would you want to come here and have a family and have them attend the school systems here and be a Napa resident?
I would definitely consider coming back to Napa and raising a family. I think Napa's a really beautiful place, and it's a really good community, and I felt safe here growing up, and I think that my children would.
I would be worried about the expense part of it. Napa's a very expensive place to live. However, I think that with job security, I would consider coming back to Napa.
Growing up in Napa, I've really come to appreciate its natural beauty, but a lot of times I've encountered kind of a conservative attitude that's hard to deal with sometimes. I think it would be nicer if Napa were a little more liberal, and because I would like my kids to grow up with more open attitudes. And even though we have some diversity here, I feel that we could use some more. Like, I mean, if you compare Napa to Berkeley, there's quite a difference there. I rarely see an African American here, for example.
Okay, well, Napa is one of the most beautiful places in the world, I believe. And see, I was born in San Francisco, and I was playing soccer on rooftops as a youngster. And finally, my mom said enough of the cloudiness and the fog, and we moved up to the beautiful Napa Valley. And I would definitely consider living here just because it's such a gorgeous place to live, and hopefully the track housing will not overcome everything because of the vineyards. That's one thing that won't happen here, is because we have to have land for vineyards, so it will remain beautiful.
Remaining in and/or living and raising a family here would really depend on where someone is in their life and where Napa is when that time comes.
Well, actually, I would consider raising a family in the Napa Valley because, first of all, I feel that Napa is such a beautiful place, and there's so much scenery to enjoy that's not overcome with big, tall buildings. And I think for my child growing up, it would be a great environment, a small town atmosphere for them to get to know kids.
I would come back to raise my family, but after I graduate from high school, I don't plan on remaining in Napa.
There's not much here except for it's mainly wine-oriented. It's a wine-oriented business all throughout the Napa Valley, and that's great if you're into that. But for me, I'm more of a it's hard to explain. I've been around here for so long, I mean all my life, and it's tiring.
I think that getting out of Napa Valley, like during my 20s and going and partying, going to college maybe on the East Coast, but then coming back, because I know I really liked growing up here and it was wonderful. And up until I was about 14, we didn't complain about the lack of options that we noticed being teenagers and living here.
What
would I consider living in Napa for the rest of my life? I would have to answer no, because Napa is just too slow for me.
As of right now, I wouldn't stay in Napa. I leave August 15th for school, and I think I'm ready to experience the East Coast more than the West Coast. Maybe in the future I'll come back. I want to be a teacher, so I think Napa would be a good enough place to raise a family and do what I want to do.
To raise a family here, it'd be great, but I would like for my kids, for when I have kids, to get a feel of bigger and more advanced cities.
Yeah, we're sick and tired of being in Napa because we've been here for so long, and we just want to get away, and that's part of finding out who you are. I mean, everyone here has pretty much said, I'm leaving, and that's normal. I mean, everyone wants to do that, but I think in terms of raising a family, if you want a pretty place to live that's safe, Napa's a good place to raise a family. I don't think I will, just because I've got other plans, other places to go. I want to see the world.
Communities in general have perceptions about their young folks and about the students that live in their communities, and Napa's really no exception. And oftentimes we see stereotypical type perceptions of our young students. But we'd like to hear from our high school participants here how they feel their community perceives them to be. And if they don't feel that those perceptions are positive, if they feel they're perhaps negative, what would you do to change those perceptions about that the community has about you? Okay?
That we're all violent, mean, gangbanger people. I was going to Denny's with some friends of mine, and we were walking, like this old couple was walking towards us, and this old guy picks up his cane and like he was ready to defend himself. We were looking in the magazine, and we looked up, and there he was standing with his cane above his head, ready to hit us. And we were like, what the heck is going on? We haven't done anything.
I feel that the perceptions of the community towards teenagers in general isn't positive. They think we're all gonna go out and thrash everything. We're gonna ruin our community in some way, shape, or form.
The thoughts of adults towards teenagers nowadays is very negative. They judge us by the way we look, the way we act, and the way we wear our clothing. They think that if we drive that we're going to crash into them. And
I think that a lot of the adults in our community look at the teenagers and really they don't trust us at all. Like I notice a lot of times when I walk into a store, I'm being watched like a hawk.
Unfortunately, the older you get, the more out of touch you become with what you were like when you were a youth and what young people are like.
They look on young people as a group. They don't look at us as individuals. They see a group of young people and we are all painted with the same brush. For example, if you see a group of young people walking down the street, they are all gang-banger, drug-using dropouts, and I don't think that that is right.
We are grouped together in our own little cliques at school, too, even in the community. When we go out, we're seen as, rebels or wrongdoers, and a lot of the majority of us aren't. I know that some of my friends are perceived as being smokers when none of them smoke just because of the way they look. And that you get even from teachers, you get accused and that kind of thing.
I think kids in Napa and pretty much throughout the nation have gotten a pretty negative message from adults. When I was growing up, I always heard, how young people are always getting into drugs and, just causing violence and all of these things. And I know that in the inner cities that's true, and even in Napa that's true, but I think if kids are being given this negative message, then they just feel worse about themselves and they'll never want to improve. So I think the most important thing is for adults to have a more positive attitude about their kids, to spend a lot more time with their families, even if they do have jobs, take time off from work, because I think one of the most important things is to be there for your children when they're small and let them know that you really love them. And if they grow up in an environment like that, then they'll feel inspired to do whatever they want with their lives, and they'll have a lot more positive attitude about themselves and what they can do.
I think parents tend to side a lot more on the teenager's side. I think that the old lady who lives at the end of your street who hears your music all day, she probably doesn't like you too much. And I feel as though the youth are being considered guilty until we prove ourselves innocent, where it should be really the other way around. We should be considered innocent until we're proven guilty of whatever people would like to rap on us. I mean, I know a lot of times late at night when I'm driving home, I'll get tailed by cops for miles and miles because I'm a teenager with 3 kids in my car. And I know they're looking out for me. However, I feel that I'm really being incriminated when I'm just trying to drive home, and it's not fun being tailed by cops.
I'm 17, and I can't go to the teen center because it's mostly 14-year-olds, and I can't go to the bars because I'm not 21. So there's really nothing for me to do. Things close at 10 o'clock, and people don't look down on me because I'm kind of in that gap, and I think that we need to make sure there's a good connection between the leaders of Napa Valley and the teens.
They think that we're like hoodlums that go out and cause trouble, that we rebel and everything like that. Which is true to some extent, but you know, we're like I said, we're individual.
I hardly ever hear of adult people that are in corporations or whatnot bag us and say, oh, they're horrible, they can't do anything.
From my personal experiences, I feel that the older generation Napa tend to view teenagers in Napa as nuisances or bad people, and I think it's a really sad thing because I think that to have a stereotype of any certain generation of people is wrong to do so. And even though I feel that maybe they have their reasons in doing so, I think that's wrong. Like from personal experiences, I know going to a store, say I'm more often to like have some salesperson leaning over my shoulder and like pondering or like checking to see if I'm going to steal a thing or something along those lines. Or if I'm out and about on a weekend night, I'm more likely to have, you know, a cop car or a cop look at me and see if I'm doing anything more so than I think certain other age groups or people would do so. And I to be honest, I don't know how we can change that.
Once you graduate from high school, how would you contribute to the Napa community?
Well, I work at Clinic Olay, and we do outreach in Napa County. And a lot of people don't even really know what STDs or HIV are. So when I graduate, I'm going to stay in the Napa community and contribute.
Once I graduate high school, I will probably stay around and possibly work in a daycare and provide those services for people. Possibly become a teacher or a teacher's aide and help kids learn with their math or their English or history or whatever is needed at the time. And maybe even become a youth leader myself.
I know that I coach teams, which I believe I feel like I'm giving back a lot to the community.
But I think that we can mostly contribute to the community through our volunteer services and through our new ideas.
Having a student of new technology turn out the way that they would hope us to turn out.
I plan to pursue a career in teaching, and I want to teach at the high school level. I've really enjoyed the experience here at high school, and I've had a lot of good teachers, and I would like to contribute back to Napa by possibly coming back and teaching here at a high school.
Any other issues, any other concerns, whether it's about education, environmental issues, what's available here for teenagers, this is your chance to let us know how you feel about the youth in Napa.
I think we need to, one of the first things, we need to establish places for kids to go. We need to get kids out of their cars. And I think that if we give kids positive places to hang out, places where the business people are friendly, they're not shooing you out the door at 10 o'clock, where it's a very lax, open environment, I think that that's something that's going to be very positive, and I think that we can solicit the private businesses to do that. I think, you know, they'll buy a cup of coffee. Kids will do that, and I think that that's going to be something that would definitely help Napa.
I think one thing I'd really like Napa leaders to pay attention to is the fact that the kids can do really positive things in the Napa community, and that just to really encourage them to get involved in what they love to do and to provide them with the resources to do those kind of things. Because the more they're encouraged and the more they're inspired to follow their passions in life, then I think they can do great things.
Another concerned issue is I think adults, group leaders in Napa to do with education should take more time out to come out and see the kids instead of just studying them on a videotape all the time. They don't know anything about us. I don't think they take the time to get to know a kid one-on-one. You know, if adults would give us that respect, I think kids would give adults the same respect as to where, you know, hey, we can talk, you know, we can be friends and stuff. Adults don't want to do that with kids in school nowadays. I think that would make a real big difference in the education program.
My other concerns is the teen center that we have. It is not exactly equipped for the kinds of teens that we have in Napa. It's for a limited group. I think that there should be a different teen center or just broaden the other one, the one that we have.
Also, if there was more sex education throughout high school, there wouldn't be so many unwanted teen pregnancies. And people need to realize that condoms aren't birth control and birth control aren't condoms. And if you need tests and stuff, you should really go to Clinic Olay or Planned Parenthood.
I would like to express to the leaders and to the older generation here in Napa that it is important for them to continue supporting our high schools and our youth. I feel that they have done a good job doing this, and I want them to know that we appreciate this and we still need their support.
I'd like to the leaders of Napa and leaders of everywhere to continue to support music in the high schools, and I think music is one of the greatest things that our society has.
All right, on behalf of Vintage High School, we'd like to thank this leadership, Napa Valley, for coming and getting our opinion. I mean, it's very important to all of us that you asked for what we think, and you know, we'd just like to say thanks for asking what we thought and letting us give our opinion.
Watched this last night. I was really impressed by a lot of messages. They're not just negative. There are some answers in there that the youth in this community really want leaders in the Napa Valley to reach out to them, to go to their schools, to find out who they are individually, and to work with them. They really want that. The other concern is that I really saw a woman, they talked about after high school about what they want to do is spread their wings, was one woman said. And that's pretty common in youth today. And the other one was a message to parents and how they are basically a product of their own environments and in our community. And if they get a message from the community of a negativism of there's a problem with youth, problem with drugs, how that affects their self-esteem and their self-worth and achieving any goals for them in the future. They're really looking for some positive leadership roles. I think one of the classes with Leadership in Napa Valley has a mentor program, and I think that would be a great opportunity for anyone who's interested in researching that group out and contributing some time. I mean, I really reviewed this tape and really analyzed it. So it was a great experience. We really wanted to do a diversity of groups, and we got that.
Any questions, real quick?
Well, just to dovetail on what she said, would you plan to take the video and give it to some community leaders? Because being involved with the Boys and Girls Club, I know our board and our executives would love to see what the youth want, because we're trying to gear our programs towards the youth and teenagers. It'd be good to have a copy of that tape.
It's a good idea. We probably will now.
And one of the things that was really interesting, one of the closing remark is one of the students thanked us for coming out to listen to them and their opinions and how they saw things for the future and today. They thanked us, and which was like, I mean, touching for me.
And one girl made an interesting comment. She said that if adult leaders really want to know about teens, they shouldn't study them on a videotape. It might be nice to go to the schools and meet with the teens one-on-one and get to know them a little bit. And we better shut up and get out of here so the next group can get on. I wanted a question.
I was just saying, Leon Garcia, I'm on the Commission for Children, Youth, and Families in the county. Some of us here are members of that commission. Thank you for the piece of work on that. It's very interesting.
You're welcome.
Looking forward to sharing that with the rest of the commission. You guys are very insightful young people. Thank you.
Leon is also a graduate. What's your class?
Class 6.
Yay.